Alright, we're back for more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Today is Monday, February 10th, and we are coming off of another positive day yesterday. Only a 3-2 day, but still, hey, a positive day is a positive day. We will take it. Looking for more of that same success here today. We don't have the biggest slate, but we've got a lot of SWAC basketball, and I don't know if I should say this or not. The last time we picked a lot of SWAC games, we didn't have that great of a day. It was the same day the Vikings played the Rams in the wild card round, I remember. We're looking to bounce back this time around because we have a lot of SWAC action. I think every single team in the SWAC plays today, so majority of the games we're going to talk about today come out of the SWAC conference. So looking for a big day today, folks. But before we get into the best bets, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Later today, we will have our NBA predictions on the channel. It is Luka Doncic's debut in Los Angeles tonight. I will be there. I will be in attendance. We will likely have a vlog up on the channel probably on Tuesday of my experience going to the Lakers game. And with me going to the Lakers game tomorrow night, we're going to be in a different setup for tomorrow's video because I'm obviously going to be in LA tomorrow night. I'm getting on a plane as you're seeing this in a couple hours here. So yeah, the setup's going to be a little different. I'm going to bring my camera though, and it's probably just going to be recorded on my camera. I think I'm not going to have my computers though, so I'll figure something out. It's either going to be on my phone or on this camera that you're seeing right now at the bottom of the screen. We'll figure it out regardless. Again, make sure to go check out our NBA predictions in a couple hours here, folks, and make sure to go check out also our UFC Fight Night Cannonier versus Rodriguez full card predictions. That is linked in the description down below. We might be starting and probably starting our own MMA channel, specific MMA content on that one channel in about a month, so stay tuned to that and watch this Cannonier Rodriguez video for more information about that. All right. On to our best bets for today. We will start off with the biggest game of the day, and then we're going to get into some SWAC basketball. But first, we're going to start in Clemson, South Carolina for the North Carolina Tar Heels going down south to take on the Clemson Tigers. It's the biggest game by far today. Well, Baylor-Houston's a big game too, but this one feels like a huge spot for both squads, UNC and Clemson, but especially the Clemson Tigers after their big victory, giving the Duke Blue Devils their first loss in ACC play, beating Duke by 6 points in Clemson, South Carolina. Clemson now only one game behind Duke for first place in the ACC as they are 11-2. Obviously now Duke is 12-1. Clemson's two losses in ACC actually come the game before the Duke win. They lose to Georgia Tech right before that, which, you know, isn't great. And then a loss at Louisville at the KFC Yum Center. I'm fine with the Louisville loss. The Georgia Tech loss doesn't look all that great, but honestly, we can just kind of scrap that now because of their victory against Duke. Nothing, that just doesn't matter no more, honestly. They beat Duke. They should have all this momentum coming into this basketball game to take on the North Carolina Tar Heels. Now, if you've been watching the best bets every day, which if you haven't, you probably should, we've been winning a lot of money here on the channel. I've kind of been a defender of the Tar Heels. I have picked North Carolina through tough times, and right now, it certainly is a tough time. Now, they lost the game at Pitt a couple weeks ago, or last week. They lose to Duke right after, but they did bounce back over the weekend. They beat Pitt at Chapel Hill, a victory that they needed to get RJ Davis, who else, with the go-ahead bucket for North Carolina, propelling them to victory. And again, RJ Davis is the guy around here. I keep telling you guys again, I mean, obviously, if we're talking about North Carolina basketball, RJ Davis is the guy that we need to consistently play well. And again, I don't think that RJ Davis is necessarily going to play bad tonight at Clemson. I just think Clemson's the more prepared basketball team and the better basketball team. Guys, North Carolina has struggled on the road all season long. They struggled to kick off ACC play against Louisville. They go to the KFC Yum Center. They lose the game by 13 points. They go to Wake Forest, a game that they should win. Wake Forest has been decent this season, but they go to Wake Forest, lose the game by 1. Historically, North Carolina should go to Wake Forest and win that basketball game. They go to Pitt, lose the game by 8, competitive first half, non-competitive second half. Well, Pitt just kind of pulled away. They go to Duke, they lose the game by 17 points. This team has struggled on the road all season long. Their only road victories in the ACC come with a 1-point victory in South Bend over Notre Dame and a victory in Raleigh by 2 points against North Carolina State. They're taking on a Clemson team that has all the momentum in the world. I mean, you couldn't ask for more momentum than what Clemson has right now. I don't care, honestly, anymore about the Georgia Tech loss. It was a triple overtime loss, competitive game. It is what it is. They are coming off of a victory against Duke, and the way that they're able to, you know, kind of shut down Cooper Flagg, probably the best that we've seen any team play Cooper Flagg this season, is impressive. Again, a 77-71 victory for the Clemson Tigers in that game. It was Tyrese Proctor who really popped off for Duke in that one. Cooper Flagg, again, not to say he had for Cooper Flagg, for the eventual number 1 pick in the NBA draft next season, it was a bad night for Flagg. 38 minutes, 6 for 17 from the field, 18 points only for Flagg in that one. Again, Tyrese Proctor was the leading scorer for the Blue Devils, playing 39 minutes and scoring 23 points. But I don't mind Clemson here at all. Again, they're playing with all that momentum of just beating Duke. You get Chase Hunter, who's been having a phenomenal season with 17 points a game, 18 points a game. Ian Shefflin, obviously, they're one of their bigs with him, and Victor Locken. They've been both pretty solid this season. You get Jaden Zachary as well and Chauncey Wiggins. Clemson's starting unit's pretty solid. Their bench, again, obviously does not stack up to the strength that their starters are, but I like Clemson a lot in this spot. Again, if there was ever a game where Clemson can feed off some momentum, it's that last one against Duke. That game was just a couple of days ago, obviously, on Saturday. Now here's a Monday spot against North Carolina, and I'll say it, this is probably their most competitive game for the rest of the season, other than when potentially they go to SMU. But I mean, hell, we saw Louisville a couple weeks ago go to Texas and absolutely dominate Southern Methodist. So possibly this is their toughest matchup for the rest of ACC play. Now, obviously, again, Clemson is pretty much a lock for the NCAA tournament. They could lose out. If they lost out, they'd probably not make it. But Clemson's getting into the NCAA tournament. No, they just beat Duke. They're getting into the tourney, right? They have a win over Kentucky too. Even if they lost out, I still think they'd get in, even though they lost to South Carolina. Now they'd still get in. The Kentucky and Duke wins alone would get them in. So Clemson's a tourney team, obviously, and this is, I think, their toughest matchup until they get into the ACC tournament, where eventually I think we all expect them to run into Duke. Maybe, again, NC State makes a miracle run and they shock everyone and sneak into the tournament again. I don't know. I doubt that happens this season. There's no signs of it this year. There's no DJ Burns in Raleigh this year. There's not. Ben Middlebrooks is still around, though. No, anyways, North Carolina, again, RJ Davis has been carrying this team. He's been putting them on his back. He's been their leading scorer in their last 7 games. It's just what he does, but I think the lack of help around, the lack of depth around RJ Davis just really makes it tough on North Carolina to win anything. I think Clemson gets this one done, and I think they do it fairly easily. I think this game, I don't know if it's going to get into blowout range, but I do think the Tigers win this one by double digits. I think, again, this crowd should be rocking coming off the victory against Duke. You welcome in again, historically great university for basketball in North Carolina. I think the Clemson Tigers get it done. Give me Clemson in a double-digit victory at home here against the North Carolina Tar Heels. All right, let's move into our SWAC triple header. We start off with the best team in the SWAC conference. That is the Southern Jaguars, going on the road to Montgomery, Alabama to take on the Alabama State Hornets. We like Southern, obviously. Guys, this is the team that we expect to win the SWAC this season. I think they should avoid the first 4 the way things are going right now. I don't know if they're going to sneak a 15 seed. Maybe, honestly. They were really horrible non-conference-wise. They lost to East Texas A&M and Iowa. Well, Iowa's not a bad loss, but South Dakota on the road, LMU, I don't know. I think they'll be able to stay out the first 4. Just by the way, again, as long as Southern, again, they have to win the SWAC, tournament, obviously. They're not getting in as an at-large, obviously, but this is a team that's been undefeated so far in the SWAC. They are 10-0, coming off back-to-back victories, against decent squads. Jackson State at home by 2 points in the road win over Alabama A&M. They're not that great, but, I think we can compare Alabama State to a team like Alabama A&M. I think, again, the Hornets are slightly better. They did go on the road and beat Alabama A&M by 4 times when they played, but Alabama State's not the most impressive squad. Southern is a 3.5-point favorite on the road in this one against Alabama State, obviously, in Montgomery, and I'm okay taking the Southern Jaguars here. Southern, again, is an undefeated team in the SWAC conference. We expect them ultimately to win the game regardless. We just need them to find a way to win the game by 4 points. I think it's entirely possible, especially when we consider Alabama State's last game. They host Grambling State, and Grambling, again, just another one of those middle-of-the-pack teams in the SWAC. I'd rank, honestly, Grambling kind of at the same level as the Alabama State Hornets, if not a little bit worse. I mean, record-wise, Alabama State is better, but on paper, again, or obviously in the game that we saw, Grambling goes to Alabama State, they go to Montgomery, and they pick up the victory, and they do it by 10 points, right? That's kind of my reasoning, honestly, right away for jumping on Southern. Again, if Grambling's able to go on the road and beat Alabama State and do it by 10 points, Southern should do it by much more. Now, Alabama State came off a victory over Florida A&M, who we're going to get to in a little bit here. They beat them by 1 point. They go to Bethune, who we're going to get to in a little bit as well. They lose that game by 3 points, but they host Texas Southern. Again, here's your other comp. Texas Southern, I think, is the second best team in the conference, personally, and the Alabama State hosts Texas Southern, loses the game by 11 points. So again, if they're hosting Grambling losing by 10, and they're hosting Texas Southern and losing by 11, theoretically, they should get blown out against Southern. I get it. math with college basketball, it doesn't always work like that, but I think it makes sense here to the extent that the Southern Jaguars are by far the best team in the conference. Again, 10-0 so far. They've gone on the road to beat teams. Hell, they've gone to Texas Southern and won. They've gone to, that's really their only really big a road victory, but they've beaten really good teams at home as well. We're talking about Bethune-Cookman. They beat them by 16 points. I mean, Southern has really established themselves as by far the best team in the SWAC conference this season, and they've done it ultimately with their defense, but with their scoring as well. I mean, they can get in their fair share of high-scoring affairs and come out on the winning side of it. I mean, how the overtime victory over Jackson State, Cam Ambery with 18 points in that one, propelling Southern to victory. I mean, this is a guy who averages 7 points a night. He puts up 18, steps up in the big moment. You look at their last game on the road against another Alabama school, obviously in Alabama A&M. Joe Manning, a guy who averages 6 points a game, steps up to the task and scores 22 points for the Southern Jaguars. So again, you look at their averages and you look at their stats. Okay, again, you get Michael Jacobs, who leads them in points, Jordan Johnson, but both those guys average around 10 a night. They've got, again, depth on this team and guys who, they have talent. They have guys, again, like Ambry, like Joe Manning, who can score, again, especially when they're only averaging 7 points a night. I don't think Alabama State's able to keep up. And also, Southern plays fairly good defense. They play, some of the best defense, I think, in the SWAC conference. Obviously, I mean, hell, look at their record. I mean, Southern will have games where they just shut their opponents down. And I think that's a prime example of that was their last game against Alabama A&M. Hell, I get it's Mississippi Valley State, but they beat Mississippi Valley State and only allowed the Delta Devils to score 42 points in that game. And now, honestly, for as much as we want to clown MVSU, they're not the worst team in the conference since they beat Arkansas Pine Bluff. They went on the road and did that, by the way. Just saying. But again, I think a better example we can use against an actual credible team, I'm sorry, Mississippi Valley State, but it's Southern's victory against Bethune-Cookman. It's at home for Southern, but still, they stop Bethune-Cookman and hold them to 53 points. I mean, this team and the Texas Southern road victory, they hold them to 58 points. Southern's a very good team in the SWAC. Again, are they going to win a game in the NCAA tournament? No. Obviously, they have to get there in the first place, but they should be able to shut down Alabama State effectively in this one. The Hornets are led by Amar Knox, CJ Hines, both those guys averaging 15. TJ Madlock averages 12 as well. But I mean, again, it's a whole other game when you take on the best team in the conference. We fully expect Southern to win the game, and with that being said, I think they cover the spread as well. If Alabama A&M is able to do it, as well as Texas Southern, I would be Grambling. If Grambling's able to do it and Texas Southern's able to cover this line at Montgomery, Alabama, I'd be very surprised if Southern isn't able to do the same thing. Again, maybe we can expect the Hornets to really, again, rise to the occasion in this game and be fired up to win this one. But again, there is just a difference in skill in this game, and obviously the skill difference is in favor of the Southern Jaguars. So give me the Jaguars on the road to go to Montgomery, cover the 3.5 points, and win the game outright as well to remain undefeated in the SWAC conference. We're not done with the SWAC. We've still got 2 more games, and we now head to a spot between Florida A&M and Prairie View A&M. We're taking the road team, who is an underdog in this spot. Give me the Florida A&M Rattlers. Prairie View A&M is not that great. They are 3-7 in the SWAC conference this season, and 2 of those victories come on the road, but those are to Mississippi Valley State and Arkansas Pine Bluff, which again, if you've been paying attention to the SWAC conference, they are by far the worst 2 teams in the conference. Now, Arkansas Pine Bluff does now have a victory in the SWAC, and it's against Texas Southern, which is odd, but regardless, those are Prairie View A&M's only 2 victories. Well, they beat Grambling as well, but that was all the way back in January, very early January. So Mississippi Valley State and the Arkansas Pine Bluff games haven't been recent either. Regardless, this team's lost 6 games in a row, right? They lose to Jackson State by 7 points. They lose to Alcorn State by 8 points. They go to Montgomery and lose to Alabama State by 3. They go to Alabama A&M and lose the game by 16 points. They go to Texas Southern, lose the game by 16 points, and they host Bethune-Cookman and lose the game by 3 points. Now, Prairie View A&M, we've talked about the Panthers a little bit. Tanaj Petaway is by far their best guy. This is a player who averages 18 points a night for the Panthers. He is really solid for this team, and he's been forced to take over the leading scoring role since Nick Anderson has gone down after that Rice game played on December 22nd. So again, it has been a lot of Petaway recently, and he's done a good job being the leading scorer here of the Panthers. I mean, this is a guy who is consistently hitting that 20-point per game mark. You also get their number 2 option scoring in Braylon Bush, who is their point guard. But Braylon Bush is 5'9", 160. He's not just that big of a guy, but Bush can explode for big scoring nights. The Alabama State and Alabama A&M games, Bush with 25 and 28 in those games, respectively. But they're taking on the Florida A&M Rattlers, a team I don't mind in this spot, and a team that has been playing hot basketball. They have. Guys, Florida A&M started their conference play 0-3 in the SWAC. 3 straight losses to Bethune, Southern, and to Grambling on the road, which honestly, in hindsight, those are not bad losses. Now they are 6-4. Right? So they've only lost 1 game since that loss to Grambling on January 13th, and that was a loss to Alabama State by 1 point at home for the Rattlers. Since then, again, they've rattled off some victories. Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Mississippi Valley State. They go to Alcorn and win. They go to Jackson State and win. They beat Alabama A&M. They lose at Alabama State, but they're coming off a road victory on Saturday against Texas Southern. That's a huge victory for this Florida A&M team. They're playing with confidence now, a lot of confidence, obviously. And obviously, you get Sterling Young, you get Milton Matthews, and you get Shaquille O'Neal's son as well, and Sharik O'Neal. I think he's the youngest O'Neal son. I think. I could be wrong, though. Regardless, Sharik O'Neal's on this team. Not a bad basketball player. He's not. Sharik's not that horrible. He's a junior. I really wouldn't expect, again, for the SWAC, he's not horrible. He's a former Texas Southern player. I'd expect him to stay here senior season. Again, we're not, just be honest, we're not expecting an NBA talent here at Shaquille O'Neal, but I mean, he's a Division I college basketball player who I think next season, if he stays in the SWAC, which I think he should be able to post pretty solid numbers in this conference. Hell, he's been in the SWAC his entire career, right? I think Florida A&M is just better than Prairie View. Guys, Prairie View, last time they won a game was January 13th. We mentioned January 13th because that's when Florida A&M lost their last game of their big losing streak. This team has turned a page since January 13th, and that's the last time Prairie View A&M has won one outright. I think everything in this game, for me, points towards a Rattlers victory. They have, more effective scorers in Young, Matthews, and hell, O'Neal as well. Chapman can score as well. And for Prairie View, I feel like they're really too dependent on Tanaj Petaway, who's a good basketball player who can score. But after him, you get Braylon Bush, who's 5'9", and then you get Marcel Bryant, who averages 10 points a game. I don't really trust Prairie View in this spot. I get it again. The game is at home for the Panthers. They are in Prairie View, Texas, but I think it's a great opportunity here to pick up on some plus money. We look at the odds. The Rattlers are the dogs at minus 105, or you can get the 1.5 points on the road as well. I just played the money line, minus 105 here for the road team, the Florida A&M Rattlers. Again, they're just the hotter team right now. We mentioned, again, their losing streak, we mentioned their turnaround of their season. Well, hell, that's the last time, that same day where they turned around their year, is when Prairie View A&M last won a basketball game. I feel pretty solid here about Florida A&M. Give me Sharik O'Neal and the guys here over with Florida A&M to pick up the victory here against the Prairie View A&M Panthers. We're not done in the SWAC. Here is the final of our 3 games today in the conference, and this is what we like to call a bounce back spot. That's all it is. That's all this is. Texas Southern at home against Bethune-Cookman. I don't think Texas Southern loses 3 in a row. That's why we're picking them here. This team was very good in the SWAC prior to the last 2 games. They were 7-1 in the SWAC conference going into a road spot in a game where they were more than expected to beat the lowly Arkansas Pine Bluff squad. They lose the game by 1 point. They then proceed to host Florida A&M and lose the game by 2 points as well. But what did this team do prior to those losses? Well, they lost to Southern to kick off SWAC play. No shame in that. That's the best team in the conference. And they go on to beat Grambling, beat Mississippi Valley State, beat Alcorn, beat Jackson State, beat Alabama A&M, Alabama State, Prairie View A&M. They rattle off 7 straight victories, but then they lose back-to-back spots. I think, again, this is the perfect bounce-back spot for this Texas Southern Tigers team. On paper, they're the better basketball team. They have more talent than Bethune-Cookman. Kevon McClain, I think, is going to be the best player on the court. He averages 15 and 5 a night for this Texas Southern Tigers team, and you also add on alongside him Zaire Haynes, who's their number 2 scorer, number 2 option on this team, who averages 11 points a night, and Kenny Hunter is their big, who's going to be directly matched up against Reggie Ward of the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. Hunter's been averaging 9.5 and 6 this season for Bethune-Cookman. They're big in their lineup. Their 4/5 is Reggie Ward Jr., who averages 10 and 8. For the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats, they're led by Brayon Freeman, who is, their most effective scorer. He plays 31 minutes a night and averages 16.5. Trey Thomas was injured for majority of the first part of the season. He is back now, and he's playing good basketball for the Wildcats. You'll add alongside him Trey Thomas, who averages 15.5 for Bethune-Cookman. here's the thing about this game. These two teams, I think, are very evenly matched. Bethune-Cookman has won 3 in a row. They beat Alabama State, they beat Alabama A&M, and they beat Prairie View A&M on the road. Prior to that, though, again, similar to what Texas Southern is going through right now, Bethune-Cookman loses back-to-back spots. They lose at Jackson State, and they lose at Alcorn State as well. Again, the SWAC is tricky. It is very tricky, and you need to know when to pick your spots. And hopefully, the last 15 minutes I just spent picking SWAC basketball, we do get on the right side of a lot of these results. But in this spot, I do like Texas Southern. Again, it's just a prime to bounce back spot. Everything that I've seen out of both these teams this season points in the direction that Texas Southern is the better basketball team, and especially under the conditions we're playing this game as well. Bethune-Cookman has not lost a home game this season at all. I think even including non-conference, because the SWAC doesn't really play non-conference home games. They only played one, and that was South Carolina State, who is in the MEAC, who... the MEAC's an odd conference. Norfolk State, by far the best squad in the conference, but they don't play much basketball because they don't have that many teams in the conference. So then mid-season, the MEAC plays non-conference games. They play NIAAs and D2s like right now. So the South Carolina State's coming off a NIAA victory over Mid-Atlantic yesterday or 2 days ago. It's just like, I don't understand the MEAC sometimes. I think they're the better, the top of the conference is better. Like if Norfolk played Southern, I think Norfolk would win, but I don't know. Anyways, Bethune-Cookman has not lost a game at home this season, but on the road, again, they have a lot of trouble. Now, I'm not going to talk about their non-conference schedule because obviously, again, the SWAC just plays a bunch of money games on the road, non-conference wise, but even in the SWAC, right, they haven't been all that impressive on the road. They are 3-3 in road play. But again, Southern, Jackson State, and Alcorn State, their last 3 losses, obviously, have all been on the road. And their last 3 out of their last 4 road games, Bethune-Cookman has lost. Texas Southern, again, under the conditions, I do think they're the better basketball team. I know they just lost a very competitive game against Florida A&M, but we just spent 5 minutes telling you how hot that Rattlers team is, how they're really coming on as the season's gone on. I'm okay with this. I really am. I'm okay with Texas Southern at home. I think they should revert back into the team that they were to start the season, or at least start SWAC play. Again, don't forget, this was a 7-1 team in SWAC play this season, and I also think, again, Texas Southern has the best player on the court, and that's going to be Kavion McClain. Again, a player averages 15.5 a game for this Texas Southern Tigers team. Texas Southern, again, 2.5-point favorites in this one, minus 145. You can play the points, you can play the money line. I'm okay with minus 2.5. I am. I think Texas Southern wins a competitive basketball game, but I think they pull away in the end. I expect Texas Southern to win this game from anywhere from the 4 to 8-point margin. I like the Texas Southern Tigers at home to win and to get back on the right track. Obviously, here in SWAC play after back-to-back losses, they rebound and they respond by beating the Bethune-Cookman Wildcats. We go to a matchup here in the Southland Conference between the Southeastern Louisiana Lions and the Houston Christian Huskies. Now, I want to give a lot of respect and I want to give thanks to Southeastern Louisiana because of their victory on Saturday. They were underdogs. I was telling you guys they were going to go on the road and beat Incarnate Word. What happened? They did exactly that. They went on the road and beat Incarnate Word. Big victory for the Lions, who were plus money dogs in that spot. Didn't understand it. They went on the road and picked up the victory as part of our huge 7-3 day on Saturday here on the channel. Again, we've been positive more times than not, obviously, here on the channel, and we've been on fire so far in the month of February. I'm fading them in this spot, though. Again, Southeastern Louisiana has been a much better basketball team since the start of SWAC play. Sorry, Southland play. Again, I was talking about the SWAC for a while. They start off Southland play by losing to Nichols, they lose to McNeese, they lose to Texas A&M Corpus Christi. What do they do after that? Well, they proceed to win 9 out their next 10 games in the Southland Conference. Who's the one loss? Who is the one loss? Houston Christian. They were able to win every other game in the Southland prior to those first 3 L's, except for January 27th, where they host Houston Christian and they lose the game by 8 points to the Huskies. Houston Christian has not been on the top of their game, but hear me out, they get this game at home. It's the second of back-to-back road spots here for Southeastern Louisiana. They are in a dogfight at Incarnate Word. And yes, they pick up the victory, and I'm very thankful that Southeastern Louisiana picked it up, but you gotta know when to start fading teams. And I'm not saying, again, this is gonna be a repetitive fade against the Southeastern Louisiana Lions, but this situational spot does favor Houston Christian a lot more. We just saw this game 2 weeks ago, and Houston Christian picked up the victory. And that game was in Louisiana. Now we get this game in Houston, Texas. I like the Huskies here. I get it. Houston Christian hasn't been playing their best basketball since the Southeastern Louisiana win. They lost back-to-back games on the road to Incarnate Word and to Nichols. But again, those are two teams that are at the top of the conference, right? And Incarnate Word's not. But, Nichols is obviously one of the better teams compared, obviously, to McNeese. And I'll break down the Southland Conference in a minute because, again, we talked about it a little bit on Saturday. But Houston Christian is coming off a victory. It's, again, a team that's not very good. We can talk about the bottom feeders of the division, whether it be East Texas A&M or whether it be the privateers of New Orleans. But a home victory for the Huskies, again, against those privateers of New Orleans, winning that game by 13 points. It's a win that they need to have. It's a bounce-back victory. My thing about this game is, they literally already beat Southeastern Louisiana 2 weeks ago. They did. And again, some of these spots I understand. Again, we tend to usually pick the team that wins the first game, especially if they got the first game on the road. And again, sometimes it doesn't always go that way, obviously, where the winner of the first game on the road wins the second game at home. But most of the time it does. I would say more times than not, the team that wins the first game, if they can do it on the road, when they host that same exact team, they likely get it. Obviously, there are circumstances where that doesn't happen. We had one yesterday, obviously, whatever, in the American Conference. Thanks, USF. But regardless, I'm okay with Houston Christian in this spot. I really am. Julian Mackey is their leading scorer. He averages 15.5 points per game. You get Bryson Dawkins, who averages 14, and Elijah Brooks will give you 10 points a night as well. Shout out to Southeastern Louisiana again. Ja'Kavion Buckley had one hell of a basketball game the other night. 27 points for him. He was their leading scorer, and obviously Sam Hines has been the leading scorer all year long, but Ja'Kavion Buckley played one hell of a basketball game. In their victory at Incarnate Word, 27 points for Buckley. I mean, he was able to effectively attack the rim all game long. It was impressive. I'm not gonna lie. I was impressed by Buckley. And what Southeastern Louisiana does, they don't shoot threes. That's just kind of a team thing. They have one player on this entire team that shoots. It's Cam Burton. Burton took 8 3-point attempts in that game. The rest of the teams took 4 combined. They don't really shoot. That's just, they try to beat you down low. They try to get you to foul them. That's going to work in some games, and obviously it did against Incarnate Word. I don't think it's going to really work too effectively against Houston Christian, a team that doesn't play horrible defense, and a team that definitely can shoot it a lot better than they can. I don't know. Southeastern Louisiana does kind of live and die at the free throw line. They, obviously live and die with what they're able to do in terms of getting into the paint. I like the Houston Christian Huskies in the spot. They are a middle of the pack team in the Southland, but here's the thing. There's like 6 really good teams in the Southland. Well, there's one very good team, is McNeese. And then again, there's these middle-of-the-pack squads who are all good. We're talking about Nichols, Southeastern Louisiana, Lamar, Texas A&M, Corpus Christi, and Houston Christian. They all have either 9-4 or 8-5 records in the Southland Conference. So I do compare Southeastern Louisiana and Houston Christian right up against each other in terms of the body of work they've put on this season. But on top of that, again, we literally just saw Houston Christian go out and beat Southeastern Louisiana. So who's to say they're not going to do it again? Again, I like the Lions. I was very happy with their road performance and their road victory over Incarnate Word just a couple days ago, but they're back on the road right away, and we get Houston Christian in this spot, a team that's coming off a victory in their own right. They're playing with some confidence now, and they already know they can beat Southeastern Louisiana. Southeastern Louisiana thinks they can beat Houston Christian. Houston Christian knows they can beat them because they just did it 4 games ago. So give me the Houston Christian Huskies to take care of business at home. This game is very close to a pick'em. You got Houston Christian at -130. You get the Lions of Southeastern Louisiana at +110. You can take the money line. You can take the -1.5. Either way, I like the Houston Christian Huskies to pick up the victory, cover the points, and obviously take one home here in the Southland Conference. So folks, thank y'all for watching our 5 best bets for college basketball here on Monday, February 10th. If you have not yet though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. Folks, we'll be back tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets here on the channel. Thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.